What's going on, America? This is Kevin from Kevin's Corner, and Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed today. And just like anticipated, the fallout has begun. People losing their mind. You know how the left is. They just can't take a loss and say, man, you know what? Let's regroup. Let's get in the weight room over the off season, run some gashers, a couple 100-yard dashes, get ready. Mentally and physically for the next fight. No. What they're going to do is they're going to do stupid stuff like what I saw today. For example, here's some of the fallout. First things first, President Trump did a wonderful job where he defended things that should be defended. Not only just he defended Brett Kavanaugh, but he also had to defend the Constitution. He had to defend the justice system, things like that. Things that most people assume are just in place, and this whole Supreme Court justice divide, argument, and attempt by the left to stop Brett Kavanaugh has attacked every one of those principles, and President Trump had to come out and defend it. He called it like it is. He was like, yeah, man, this man done been through some things, and he had nothing to do with this. He's not a part of the DC swamp. He doesn't understand how far politicians are willing to go to get their way. Even if somebody caught in the middle like Brett Kavanaugh's life was totally destroyed, his kids, his wife, they didn't care about any of those things. So President Trump had to address those things. And then you get the fallout. And this is a result of the Democrats, okay? You had people clawing on the Capitol, trying to get into, I guess, the Supreme Court Justice Building, just clawing on it as if this was a scene out of Frankenstein where they were rushing the castle, trying to get into it, just scratching on the door, zombie-like. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you people do for a living? I don't understand that. And then the question is, how is your social life? I mean, when you are an activist to this degree, I saw a couple men in there too, screaming and kicking, scratching at the door, and they're just yelling and wailing at the wall. And I'm thinking, how far did our country go? I mean, is this what we've become? And what do these people do for a living? And how is your social life? Do you date? Can you get a date? If I'm looking at that and I see a woman screaming at the door, scratching, sliding down like it's a horror movie, let me in, I want to get in, stop this, I would be going, note to self, don't date that woman. I don't care how fine you are. You can be Holly Berry plus. But if you're an activist like that, where you are unreasonable, emotional, impulsive, and willing to make a public spectacle of yourself for what? For nothing. I don't care. Beauty does not trump social skills and reason, period. Same thing goes for the guys. How you gonna get a date and you out there screaming at the top of your lungs trying to break into the Capitol, I guess? What are you gonna do when you get in there? What is that gonna stop? I would have opened the door like, come on in. Now what? They probably wouldn't have been expecting that. They'd have came in like, so we're in here. So, yeah, you better have to let us in. Have no idea what they're gonna do after that. But you got people scratching on doors. You got the country in trouble because of the Democrats. Bottom line, they have created this toxic atmosphere that has led to this because all they're doing now, they done shifted. They're all about identity politics. But now what they're trying to do is they're trying to push, I guess, not only race in this application, which I don't understand to this day, how you can insert race into this scenario. But, with the Dems, they're going to put a square piece into a circle. It doesn't matter. So they're inserting race, and they're also adding in sex. Okay, so now they're talking about how, these all white men, 12 white men made this decision. And of course, now we're supposed to somehow make this connection that these 12 white men made a decision about this white woman and this white man who has this conflict going on. And I'm thinking, how does that even play a part in it? And then, of course, they're emphasizing men, 12 white men. Now, this is so dangerous when you start talking about men as being a part of the problem. So dangerous when it comes to identity politics. And this is why I cannot stand the liberal media and the Democrats, because they don't understand what this does. See, to control the people, you have to divide them. You cannot allow them to see each other as Americans. You can't allow them to see each other as humans. You got to break it down into subgroups. Got to keep it. To control them all, you have to divide them. You know, you can't have a big group of people all on one accord. It's like if you have a dog kennel or animal kennel, you don't want all those dogs just in one big group, because then a pack leader is going to rise up. They're going to stick together. Then you might step out there and become dog food. So they break them up into little groups. You know, they can control them, let them out when they want them to come out. They don't want them to operate as one pack, because it's harder to control. You might find yourself getting eaten. So the Democrats are using the same type of methods. And now they're focusing on men, and they're focusing on the fact that these are white men. Now, here's the irony. You got people like Tom Steyer, a billionaire, had the nerve to get up there and say these white men wanted to tell the rest of America how the country should be ran and have it their way. These white privileged men, 12 white privileged men, coming from a billionaire, a man who has white privilege all over him, has the nerve to get out there and say 12 white men. And see, this is the problem with the left. They will overlook hypocrisy if it fits their narrative. It doesn't matter. You can represent the exact thing that you are accusing somebody else of doing, but long as they can accomplish a goal and objective from you and say, well, look, this is coming from a credible source. He's a man, he's rich, but he's down with us. See, therefore, he's not in the category of white privilege or a rich white man trying to get his agenda across, even though he is trying to get his agenda across by getting the president impeached. And he's a rich white man that none of us would be listening to if he wasn't a rich white man. Doesn't make sense, but you can't make sense out of nonsense. And then you got MSNB Funky C, had the nerve to have somebody on there, black dude, pudgy dude, you know, looking like Professor Clump, and had the nerve to get up there talking about some Trump delivered to these people. These people? What you mean, these people? Who you talking about when you say these people? See, were you talking about me, my brother? No, I'm sure what he was inferring is the rich, upper class, white, racist, nationalist people in America. And he said Trump delivered to them what they wanted. Now, you ready for this, y'all? This is what he claimed they wanted. And see, I'm mad at MSNBC for letting this kind of garbage go on national TV. He said he delivered for them racism. Now, remember, this is what these people want. We want racism. That's what he's saying. Now, understand, if it wasn't from the Democrats and the liberal media, we as normal Americans probably wouldn't be that conscious of racism. See, when you talk about something all the time, when you try to make it seem like it's in your face all the time, or this is something that's all around us, but maybe we're just ignorant. We can't see it. We can't identify it. Or what? Did we become immune to it? You know, but nonetheless, this is the goal. It's to keep racism circulating. So now this man says what all these people wanted was racism. You mean the millions of people who voted for President Obama twice, but then voted for Trump? That whole time they was like, you know what? I'm going to suspend my racism, because what I really think this country needs is more racism. Trump, would you give us some racism that we've been burning and earning for? You mean all of those 25 white nationalists that showed up in Washington, D.C.? Huh? You mean those guys? Because the rest of the United States was going, look at these dummies up there pushing white supremacy. That's crazy. I'm going out and spend time with my kids. I'm going to play basketball. I'm doing whatever. I'm not going up there to Washington to support this type of garbage. But you now are making it an issue. This man had the nerve to say that all Trump supporters, he gave us what we want, which is racism. Yeah, that's what I guess. And then he goes on to say, and he gave us misogyny. Yeah, that's what everybody was sitting around wanting. We want to be more misogynistic. And then what else he say? He gave us, and then he said he gave us misogyny. He gave us the Supreme Court justice. And he said, now, they might reign for 2 years. He's talking about, you know, these white, upper class white men who runs our society. You know, they might reign for 2 years. They might reign for 4 years. Then he said, who knows? They might reign for 1,000 years. And he said 1,000-year Reich. Now, I'm thinking Reich, is he referring to the Nazis? Did you just slide in a subliminal message saying that all these white, rich, privileged men who simply had the ability to look at facts, information, weigh it, rely on the Constitution, rely on fairness, rely on our justice system, and came up with the fact that there's no corroborating evidence, made a decision, a fair decision, to go ahead and allow Brett Kavanaugh to be appointed to the Supreme Court. So you're telling me, based off of that, based off of them not just suspending all reality, logic, facts, reason, data, and just siding with the woman just because she said it is, based on that, now they are Nazis? You comparing them to Nazis? Or even furthermore, people that supported them, because I guess Trump, remember, he gave them what they wanted. So I guess everybody, including all the black people, all the Latino people, and other minorities that voted for Trump, we all wanted this Nazi-like regime. We all wanted to simply, bring more racism back. And now we're operating like the Reich. See, this is the kind of stuff to give news a bad name. And finally, you got women on TV who are feminists. And this right here, just being a feminist in this day and age, the complete distortion, manipulation, contortion of femininity, it's almost a reverse effect. When you think of a female and her femininity, that's her glory. You don't want a female that's just as loud, boisterous, hard as you are as a man. You want somebody kind of feathered down, not a pushover. You don't want to look at your woman and say, you know what, you're not as good as me. We're not equal. You want to at least be able to look at her and say, we're different. We're equal, but different. And your femininity complements my masculinity. But these modern day feminists now have gone too far. And men have become the enemy. It's not that we're just looking for equality. We're looking for dominance. We want to stomp all over men and emasculate them and make them walk around with their heads down. So this lady was on Tucker Carlson tonight, and she was talking about toxic masculinity. And he asked, what's the definition of that? And she threw out a definition that I guess that just fell out of the air in the last maybe 5 years or so. You know how they have new definitions evolving from the left. Same thing with all the sexes and the genders, and we got peanut butter as a sex now. But nonetheless, she has the nerve to say, well, the definition of toxic masculinity is violence towards women. And I'm like, wow, that's what that means? And he made a good point. He said, what you're really doing is you can talk about violence without bringing in toxic or masculinity, which is specifically designed to target men. Not just violence, but the toxic masculinity issue. So now what you're saying is masculinity, or the masculinity within men is a problem, okay? Even though they just throw a little tag word on the front, toxic, okay, meaning poison, but nonetheless, they're going after masculinity, which is segmented towards just men. So that kind of gives them a broad path to take when it comes to attacking men for so many reasons, and that's what the goal is of course, a lot of people on the left, feminist movement. Anytime they want to get their way, and anytime they want to push a social agenda, all they got to do is label something toxic masculinity. And I see men out there supporting this garbage and echoing it. And I'm going, dude, I don't even know what to say. But Tucker made a good point. He said, what about toxic femininity? And she was like, what? That's not a thing. Well, neither is toxic masculinity. So why don't we just come up with a definition? What if toxic femininity is women that are a feminist but have gone too far? They've gone beyond just saying we want equal rights. Now it's we want to go ahead, storm the castle, and we want to go ahead, drag all the men out and hang them or make them servants or subsidiaries and just walking around with the heads down, scared to say anything, scared to hire women, scared to fire women. How about we just all stand still and hope for the best? That's what they're trying to do to men. So here are some of the fallout of Brett Kavanaugh being elected. And being confirmed. But the sad part about it is, even though it's a great victory for President Trump, great victory for conservatives and the United States as a whole, but it is still sad because of the process that this took place, that this went through. And we're really going to have to fight this progressive movement from the left as it tries to evade our culture, our society, our values, everything. It's just trying to tear it down at any cost, any means. And it's dangerous. It really is. They are turning into like a mob mentality. It is getting to the point where I'm saying it's hard to recognize and understand how people in 2018 in America could revert to this type of behavior. And I would watch some stuff in other countries that they do, and I say, that's barbaric. That's like ancient. I don't understand how you can be in 2018, and I watched them kill a woman in I forget, it's a Middle Eastern country. A lady, she didn't have her burqa on. These guys just took her out in the middle of the street and stomped her, beat her to death. And I'm going, how did you get there mentally? In 2018, we've come so far as a people to get to the point where you can do this in this day and age and say, I don't see what the problem is. And now I'm starting to see humans in America revert back to these type of tactics where you decide, I'm a rush up to, I guess, the Supreme Court and bang on the walls and scream. I'm going to roundhouse kick people in the stomach. I'm going to shoot at I'm going to shoot at senators. I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to shout at people while they're in restaurants and on elevators. They are quickly getting out of control and unhinged, and it is backfiring on the Democrats. And if they had any sense, they would get this mess under control. They would put these people back on a leash, because that's what they did. They let them off the leash. They knew that if they can keep these narratives going in our society and affect these vulnerable people who are looking for a reason to be a victim, looking for a cause to be a part of, they don't understand. They don't have the ability to understand big problem from little problem. They don't have the ability to understand the manipulation coming from the left. They don't see the man behind the curtain pulling the puppet strings. They are sincere in their activities, but unfortunately their activities are going to get somebody hurt. And the people responsible for it are the ones who gets up and says 12 white men and toxic masculinity and racism and misogyny, and this is nothing more than hatred towards women and a rape culture that we have. Yeah, I guess we all encourage rape, and this is injustice because this woman had no data to support any of these allegations, but people didn't believe her. This is injustice. We got to do something. So for the bleeding heart liberal hearing this, they gonna overreact. Yeah, let's run up there and bang on walls and scratch and slide down and scream up at the sky until it gets out of control. And it's a bad look for the Democrats, but I don't mind because it's a good look for us, the same people at this point. Anyway, you've been listening to Kevin and Kevin's Corner. Just a little bit of the fallout from Kavanaugh's confirmation, and I'm sure there'll be more to come in a few days, and I'll keep you posted. God bless you. Find me on Facebook. Find me on Twitter. Check me out also Wednesday nights, 7:30 live. I go live on YouTube, and I go live on my live stream radio blog talk show. And you can find that link in the bottom. All these links are actually in the bottom. If you want to support Kevin and Kevin's Corner, there's a link in the bottom to do that as well. Don't forget to check out my sponsor, Extreme Tees. And I'm going to give y'all a preview. Got another sponsor coming on board. I'll be mentioning them as well. All right, so check me out. God bless you. Thank you for supporting Kevin and Kevin's Corner. And we'll see you next time when we try to make some sense out of all this nonsense.